Hello, hello. So, Eric, we are live, and I welcome you
Awesome.
on my show, Take Back Mondays. So, everybody, Eric is the founder of Boldmen Adventures. He is a leadership coach. He's also an author, and he's got some amazing stuff to talk to you guys about today. So, welcome to the show, Eric. It's so nice to have you.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
So I know you just moved. So, like I said before we went live, that there may be a little bit of a delay because we're dealing with some new internet, but we made it just in time so that we could have this discussion, which is good.
Good. Yeah, no, we have a little bit of lag here. We just moved. They just installed everything about an hour and a half ago. So they said it was
My
going to be a little
goodness.
buggy for a while, but we're fine. It'll be fine. We'll make it work.
Well, Eric, you're doing something that I really admire. I mean, all this, I looked at everything, and this Boldmen Adventures seems like such an amazing thing for men. Okay, afterwards, Ivy, I have a meeting right now. I have a toddler, so
Yeah, I guess toddler trumps moving boxes. So
we're even. We're even.
We're even.
So, but I think so. Tell me a little bit of the backstory. Like how did this all come about? Was this around from day one, or was this an idea that evolved? And then you just said, I think men need this. I think I need to do this.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's kind of a little bit of both. It was something that was always in the back of my mind, and it kind of evolved into something way different than I thought it was going to be. So for me, what I've been doing for the last several years is mentoring, really just kind of diving into mentoring and what it does and how impactful it can be in people's lives. And I mentor a lot of men, and I've been mentored by a lot of men. And years ago, well, not that long ago, but a few years ago, I stopped being a journalist. I was a journalist for about 10 years. And I wrote for print publications, online publications, had my own publication online. I wrote for Discovery Channel, for discovery.com. I wrote for like Men's Fitness. I wrote for Maxim. I wrote for a bunch of different magazines that I had articles in. And part of it was I was what they call men's lifestyle journalist. So anything that guys love, I would write about. So cars and food and booze and relationships and gear and gadgets and adventure travel is what I would write about. And I would go on these really, really cool trips, and I'd be gone probably 2 weeks out of every month. And when I would get back, my buddies would be like, "Where'd you go this time? And what did you do? And what happened?" And they would say, "Man, I wish I could do that." So I always thought I'd love to start a thing where we do events where people can go on these kind of trips that I was going on, these adventure trips that I was writing about. And the more I got into mentoring men and the more I started looking at things, a couple of things became very, very clear. One is nature is incredibly, incredibly healing, right? Being out in nature is amazing. I'm sitting outside right now. I mean, this is where I love to be, where I love to work. I'm on this beautiful back patio. There's a lake and trees, and this is where I love to work. So nature is really healing, and nature is really good for men, especially because we love being in nature for the most part. We crave it. It's part of who we are, and we spend the majority of our lives inside. So we don't get the chance to go out. So it became part of getting men outside, getting out of the office, out of the house, out of their head, and getting outside. And that's what we do. And part of it also was I found that we'd go on these trips. There were men who had skills and knew how to do certain things, and men who didn't. And it became kind of a safe space for men to go, you know what? I'm 40 something years old and I've never built a fire. I have no idea how to build a fire. Well, come on, we're going to teach you how to build a fire. And it became this thing where in my program, I now take my mentoring program and build it into the adventure travel. So it's been really, really amazing to get men outside in a group together, small group. Usually I only take about 6 to 8 men. I have 3 men on my team. So there's between 9 and 11 of us that go on the trips. And it's about getting together. It's about bonding. It's about challenging yourself outside, doing things you wouldn't normally do, encouraging each other, inspiring each other, sitting around. We have what I call bourbon and bonfire every night. So we eat dinner together. We cook dinner together. We eat dinner together, and then we sit around a bonfire, and we have a beer or some bourbon, and we just tell stories. And we talk about, what'd you get out of today? What fear did you face? Did you, achieve something you never thought you would achieve? We just have this conversation, and it grows from there. So these adventures are really about getting back to that brotherhood of men, being outside, being in nature, being there for each other, and just experiencing everything we can and challenging ourselves. So it's become really an amazing, amazing thing to do.
To unmute myself after Ivy is making the background, keeping us entertained. I mean, when I'm listening to you, I'm just getting this. In German, you say Wunderlust, like you want to go outside and travel. So that's the first word that came to mind.
That's a great word for it, because that's really what it is. And I feel that most people that have that don't get out often enough. And so this gives them the opportunity to do that. Get out into nature. And the thing with men too is, so when you're saying like Wanderlust, or however you said it more beautifully than I could, I've spoken to a lot of men who have said, I want to do this. I wanted to get outside. I want to go hiking and climbing and fishing and hunting and, all the other stuff, zip lining and four-wheeling, the stuff that we do. But I don't know any other men that I can get together and have a trip like that. Usually it's you go with your wife and another couple, and it's to the beach, you drink and you go to the beach, or guys get together and they want to play golf and drink. This is guys who want to get outside and challenge themselves. So you don't have to know anybody. You will be like brothers 24 hours in. I promise you, that's usually what happens. So if you do have that wanderlust and you do want to get out, but you don't know anyone to do it with, that's the other reason why we want guys to come out and do this.
Well, we've got Chris here saying hello, and he says, don't forget mountain biking. Yeah, dude, I think you may have a collab in the works.
Nobody likes mountain bikes. Nobody likes mountain bikers. Chris is awesome, and that's how you and I met. And Chris has done a little bit of our stuff, but he didn't get to go do the adventure outside with us because we were still in the middle of COVID. So he didn't get a chance to do that. But we're going to get him out on one where he can mountain bike for the first time.
No, I get it. And especially if these guys are more like urban and they don't get enough outdoor time. Chris isn't your typical guy. He's got more than enough outdoor time, hours logged. So I love that, because it's true that we kind of have denaturalized ourselves. Like I heard that there was a saying I like to repeat, sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah, I heard that. I definitely heard that. And you know what? I would say, well, I'm looking at Chris's comment. Yeah, I know. Chris and I have been friends for a long time now. I love Chris. He's like a brother. And I love that he's an avid mountain biker and that he gets outside a lot. And I actually gave him a meditation practice, an outdoor meditation practice that I designed with my mentor specifically for men. So Chris has been doing that too. And I love to tease him about his bike riding. But the sitting is the new smoking thing. I you know what? That's a great way to put it. I would say that I think any form of being sedentary, so being locked in an office all day, sitting down all day, coming home, sitting on the couch, it's deadly. I mean, I know the Apple Watch has a thing where it tells you to stand up here and there just to get out, just to get up. But yeah, movement is the biggest thing. You got to get up, you got to move. I used to coach people who were morbidly obese. I was a fitness director at a spa where a lot of very obese people used to go. And they used to tell me like, what's a workout? What kind of work should I start? And I would tell them, look, you guys are sitting most of the time. Just standing up and sitting back down is better than not standing up at all. right? Picking up a weight and putting it back down is better than not picking up a weight. So it's just getting yourself acclimated. So I'll tell guys, we'll give them this outdoor meditation. It's called lion stalking. And I would say, just go out in your backyard and just do that for 5-10 minutes is better than not doing anything at all. So just to get yourself in the habit of getting up and getting outside it's a beautiful start.
I wish that all men could get outdoors and women too, obviously. But I personally like this idea of just being among men because I think that honestly, when we're mixed, there's a whole different dynamic. As soon as you put men and women together, we change. And I feel like when we're, nothing against the opposite sex. Obviously, there's a time and a place for that, right?
Yes.
But just to be among men, or for me, among women, there's something that just feels like a sisterhood, like we're safe. We don't have to put on any show. I don't know why we feel that way when we're mixed, but there is this different thing going on there, right?
I would agree with you 1,000%. And I mean, that's why we do the men only thing. And it's like nothing against the ladies. Love women, want women to be as empowered as possible. I love women's groups that do that kind of stuff. But it is the same thing for men. When men can get around just with other men and actually just be ourselves, right? Open, honest, real, raw is what I say. And we don't, even when I do my brotherhood calls, and we do a call once a week where men are invited to come in, and I pick a topic every week and we talk about it and discuss it. We don't record it. We don't tape it, nothing. It's just, you can get in, say whatever you want to say, feel however you want to feel. And I've had men on the adventures and men that come into the brotherhood and they're like, I never knew how freeing it was just to be among other men and be able to say whatever it is I want to say and share whatever I want to share. Be open, be raw, be vulnerable, be real, and just, and then just get the back and forth from other men. It's an amazing, amazing experience. So I recommend it to anyone. If you haven't done anything like this yet, go do it. Whether you do it with me or any other group of friends that you have, get outside, get together, just you guys, and just get real, get raw, and just talk about stuff. It's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Well, I think it's sad to say that we live in such a time enslaved society where everything has to be regulated. So Monday through Friday, most people are busy at work. And then weekends, you've got your family obligations and you've got, a whole list of chores you have to get through. And the truth is, after about the age of 28, friendships start dwindling. And then it's like, wow, we have to actually like make a date to even see each other because between work and kids and spouses and buying a house and then having a lot of home maintenance to do, adults just kind of lose out on those friendships. So only a few remain. And the ones that remain tend to be either really old friends from like college years that you just have to keep in touch with, or couples friends, right? After a while. And it's just like, so what you're describing, it brings a whole new perspective. What is the effect on mental health? Because being outdoors, it sounds like it's good for the body, but what about the mind? What is it doing for you?
Well, it's interesting you say that being outdoors is good for the body. It's actually really, really good for the mind as well. To me, I used to call going to the beach, and I live in South Florida and I live near the beach, and I would go to the beach regularly, and I called it going to church. Like for me, I would do my meditation practice out. We have a seawall in Fort Lauderdale that's right at the edge of the beach, and then there's the ocean. I would sit on that wall and just do my meditation practice. It's beautiful. And they have a thing in Japan, and I can't think of the word, but it translates into forest bathing. And they actually prescribe this.
wow.
Psychologists in Japan prescribe this for people to go out into the forest and just sit among the trees for mental health, to de-stress, to get rid of anxiety, depression, all of those things. So there's been a lot of studies on how nature affects mental health. Now, for the men in particular, I love what you said before about friendships dwindling, because they've done a lot of studies with men. And one of the biggest issues that I hear from men is they don't have a really good male friend that they can go to. And one of the things they found in a lot of these studies, and I've seen different numbers, and it ranges from the mid 60% to mid 90% of men say they do not have one good male friend that they could turn to if they needed someone to talk to and have a real conversation with. When you go into the 80s and 90 percentile, now you have men who feel isolated and alone and feel like they have to handle it themselves. All of that can contribute to some mental health issues. And I think it's why, and if you look at the studies, and I don't want to, get into too many numbers and studies and things, but it goes along with what you're saying. I think between 75 and 77% of all suicides every year are men. And the vast majority of those are middle-aged men. And my feel on that is because we're supposed to know everything. We're supposed to have it together. We're supposed to be, and we're not supposed to turn to other, and we don't have, and like we just said, the friendships are dwindling. So we don't have these other men to turn to. And we don't want to go to our significant others. And and a lot of times women, we love you, like I said before, may or may not have the answers, but we're looking for answers from another man who can tell us, a man who's been there before, which again is why I got into the mentoring thing. Was let's get men who are ahead of us on the path. So I always say we're standing on the shoulders of the men who are ahead of us on the path, and we're reaching a hand back to the men who are behind us on the path. So we're being mentored and we're mentoring at the same time. We're passing it on. And it's so important to get this from men who have been before us, who have been there. Wisdom, right? The experience that they've had, the wisdom that they've earned. I call them big, beautiful battle scars. And it's, what have you learned and earned on the way through in your life, and pass that on? And when you don't have that, when men can't share this with each other or turn to someone else, that's when the issues start to happen. And I think this goes a long way to kind of alleviating that.
It's really a shame because of these cultural norms that we're kind of bound by, that women somehow are entitled to express their feelings and be more emotional, whereas men have just as many emotions.
Sure.
I've seen plenty of men cry, and
Sure.
there's nothing demasculating about that, but yet in our society, there traditionally was. Where do you think that, that has shifted? Would you agree with me that now socially we're getting more, we're letting men be more expressive than in the past generations?
Yes. And I think there's a way that it's coming out now that I find beautiful. I mean, I've seen, I watch a lot of sports, and I've seen in sports where, men will, the one that sticks out to me, this happened a few years ago now, was a baseball game, and a guy hit a line drive and it hit a little girl in the head. And she was hospitalized and taken out in an ambulance. And he was so shaken by it, the guy that hit the ball, that there was a security guard there, and she came over to say to him, "It's okay. It wasn't your fault." And he just broke down. And I'm getting emotional, like thinking about it. And it was so beautiful to watch this man, this athlete, right? Just feel the emotion, And that's the thing. So in the work that I do, we have, the 4 foundational archetypes, and they're the warrior, the lover, the king, the hero. So in that, and this goes for everyone, this is not just men. So when I work with women, it's warrior, lover, queen, hero. But the king, the queen is someone who has the warrior and the lover balanced, right? They can integrate the two. And that's when you're stepping into your king, your queen archetype. But the warrior is like all those, things that get us moving forward. So boldness, courage, leadership, guardianship, adventurer, decisive, all of those things is all our warrior that gets us moving forward. But the lover side, the heart side, that's things like wisdom and creativity and playfulness and inspiration and abundance and all the things that make life so juicy, all the things that make it, wonderful. But when you can integrate those two, the warrior and the lover, that's when you elevate to, for men, king. So I love to see men that are warriors, but can step into that other side, that emotional side. And listen, for guys that think it's just, even like you said, it's this generation. I mean, General Patton, in World War II, he was, I mean, warrior among warriors, right? General George
Yeah.
Patton, a
Very
warrior
famous.
among warriors. But he was also very, very emotional. He had that heart side of his. He had it very well developed. He would weep on the battlefield. Men that were injured, men that showed incredible courage, he would just get overcome with emotion and just weep on the battle. And he would shock some of the men that were around him, but he didn't care. He just let it out. And I think that's when men show emotion from strength versus showing it from weakness. And I think men have thought, if I cry, I'm going to look weak and whiny, and you can feel that part of it. But when you're overcome with emotion, like you're in awe of something beautiful, or you have an emotion of sadness for somebody in your family, or you feel for someone less fortunate, that emotion comes from strength, and that's the heart. And I think, one of the things I work on is getting men to tap more and more and more into that heart side, because we could tap into the warrior. It's easy to get men to tap into the warrior. If you've never been a warrior before, and this is how I was raised, I was not raised that way. My mentors helped me tap into my warrior, and you're like, whoa, this feels natural. I like this. I can tap in. The lover side, a lot more nuanced, and men can be like, I don't know, am I doing this from strength? Am I doing it in the right way? Am I being whiny and weepy? Or am I being open and emotional and real and vulnerable and all of those things, where we can absolutely express that emotion that we're feeling? And I think for me anyway, and in my experience, it's shown a full, well-rounded man. When you can lead with your warrior and then support with that lover heart side, that elevates you to king, and that's when you can show all of it to your queen. Actually, that's what women want. They want a full, well-rounded man. They want a man. Women will say to me, and I'll just wrap with this. They'll say to me, I want a sensitive man. I'd love a sensitive man. I want a man who can cry. I want a sensitive man. And I tell them, no, you don't. You want a man who can be sensitive, right? Leading with that warrior, leading with that masculine part of us, but then having that lover, that heart side that we can show to you as well when needed. And women go, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Right. Right. I mean, you're shaking your head.
Absolutely.
So that question.
That sounds really, really well balanced. And that actually leads me to a question: is
Sure.
What can women do to support men better? Are there certain behaviors? Now, I guess I'm unleashing. Wait, how much time do we have?
I got all afternoon for you, Kristen. So whatever you need, I'm here.
But you get my point. Is I'd like to know, like, I'm sure that we contribute a lot to helping men or hurting men. Just like it goes both ways. It's a fine dance, right? So since you know men so well, and you know their needs, and you know what we're trying to aim for, this king state where they can be really well balanced, how can women let their men be real men?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that question. I get asked it a lot. And what I will normally say is this, and I'll say this to you too, Krista. Women are amazing. Absolutely amazing. So if a man is not in his king, if he's not stepping into courage and his warrior, if he's coming from like a little boy, like a lot of men are little boys. I like to say most men are little boys, just with a lot more expensive toys, right? They haven't matured up that way to king yet, which is fine. We're going to get you there. That's part of what we do. But when a man is not stepping into his king, the woman will step into that role. You will take over. You will step into your warrior. You will take, and I know I could say, because I see this over and over and over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
It's what happens. Women will step up into the king slot and then handle everything, and then resent the man for not stepping. Now, the men in this situation are usually like, oh, cool, she's taking care of that. That's all right. She's got it. And it just makes things worse and starts to implode. So that's number one. And that's what goes to this next statement when you said, how can women support their men into stepping into their king? I tell women, it's really hard for him to step up to the plate when you're already standing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's hard for him to step up to the plate when you're already standing on it. So number one thing is, and I know it's tough because he's let you down. He's shown he can't do it, but for you to step out of your king and demand he step up. And a lot of the men that I work with one-on-one are in situations where the woman in their life is literally packed up and ready to go because he's not stepping up. And what happens is the reaction is typically something along the lines of, I'm so sorry. What can I do? What can I do? And that's not the answer. It just makes it worse. I'll do anything you want me to do. Now you're just continuing to make it worse. It's more about stepping into your king. And when we can give men the way, we can guide men the way to step into your king, balance your warrior and your love. When I say balance, doesn't mean they have to be equal all the time. I mean, you could lead mostly with your warrior and show that heart side, but she has to know it's there. We can get men tapping more into their warrior and getting more into their king. It elevates. Women can then relax into your, what I call the divine queen. You can relax in your divine queen. All you want is safety and security from us. You want to know that the man is there. He is capable. He is taking care of things. You're not his mama. You're not doing it for him, right? You're not, he's not a child.
Mothering him. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Mothering him, child, all of this, making all the decisions in the house. That's the big one where he's like, oh, whatever you want, sweetheart. Whatever, what do you want for dinner? Oh, you decide. What movie do you want to watch? You decide. It's like, geez, make a decision. Decision is a warrior trait. So decide and start moving forward. So the more men will step into their king, the more the women can relax into their divine queen. And now you're both elevating together, which is what you want. You want to be a beautiful, powerful king and queen together. No one over the other, but you're working together and you're, challenging each other, pushing each other. But women, you got to hold your men accountable. You got to get him to step up, because if you're going to mother him, keep him as a, keep doing that. You're going to keep him down as a man child, and he's not going to progress up to king. And that's what you want. You want him as a king.
So basically what you're saying is we buy him a plane ticket, send him to wherever you're hosting your next event, and tell him you're going to like it. Just get on the airplane.
Well, see, that's the thing. But doesn't that sound like mothering? It's like, you're going to do this. Right.
Yes,
That's
no,
different.
I'm joking.
I actually had a woman call me. She contacted me and she goes, he's going on your next trip, whether I have to drive him there myself or not. And I said, well, then I don't want him, because he's not ready. He's got to make that decision first. That has to be the first part. If he can't make that decision, there's an issue. Now, I'm always happy to have phone calls on them, because I do one-on-one mentoring with men also. So, a lot of the guys that I work with, I do one-on-one with first, and I will have this conversation with them, a very real, raw conversation with them about, if you're not going to step up, she's going to step up. And now you're going to be in trouble, because she's going to go find another man who's in his king already. That's what women are looking for, right? Women want that from their man. They demand it, and they rightfully so, right? Demand it rightfully so. So if you have to tell him to do this, or you have to tell him to do that, I don't want him. He's not there yet. He's got to make the decision. If he wants to get on a call with me, I'm happy to have a call with anybody, take you through these. And listen, I'll tell you right now, case study. I got a guy, very successful guy, and his wife was out. She was out the door. He told me, he said she was out the door, and they were in marriage counseling, and the marriage counselor knew me. And she said, I have a guy. He can call Eric. Eric will have a conversation with him. And he didn't want to do it, but he did it because his marriage was ending. He called me. I gave him this whole spiel about the warrior, the lover, all of it. And he basically told me he felt I was full of shit. He didn't believe any of it. It sounded very woo-woo and out there. But he said, basically, I'm drowning, and if you threw me a bowling ball, I would grab for it, because I got nothing else. So he said, I'll give it a shot. Within 4 to 6 weeks, we had his whole marriage turned around. They're going away for the weekend. He's stepping into his king. She's relaxing into her queen. Everything's starting to flow. And he says to me, at the beginning of the last few calls that we've had, he said to me, I will tell you honestly, I never thought this was going to happen. I never thought I was going to get my marriage back. I completely thought you were full of shit. I figured, what the hell, I'll give it a shot. He said, but I'm amazed it actually worked, and it was all about me. nothing to do with her, because he said to me at the beginning, how come I'm doing the work and she's not doing anything? How come I'm doing everything with you and she's not? So don't worry about her. You work on you, you step into your king, she will shift into her queen. And she did. And this is just one, I mean, but this happens over and over and over again. It's not magic and it's not anything crazy. It is literally what happens when men finally drop all the little boy shit, drop all the nonsense, and step into their king deliberately and work to stay there. And, you know, that's really what I've seen. So hopefully that answers your question about what women can do to support. Just have them get on a call, tell them it'll be okay. It's free. I'll talk to them. I'll give them some insight, and then they can make the decision from there what they want to do. But that's really the best. And the thing is, like I said, call them on their shit, hold them accountable. They're not little kids. They're not little boys. They have to step up, and that's it.
I love it. So what's your next steps? What are your next moves? Do you have any plans?
Nah, I'm just gonna retire.
You deserve it. You deserve it.
No plans. So yeah, so we're expanding. So the Boldmen Adventures, we're putting a slate together for next year. We're gonna have one more trip this year in November. So you can go to boldmenadventures.com. You can get on the list. We'll send you, advance notice when we have the next trip. We're adding what we're calling experiences, which the adventures are 3 and 4 days and more. And the experiences will be half day, 1 day, maybe a 2 day. And we're going to do those around the country so guys locally can jump in, do something. We did a half day. We did a full day trip. It was a half day of sport fishing and a half day of hiking in nature. And so we did all of that, and the guys loved it. So we're going to do some more of those. I have the Boldmen Brotherhood, where we meet 6 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. And that's where it's kind of like a round table. We just get in and the men get together, and we've got a number of guys that come on every week. I get guest speakers come in once a month, and you can just talk. I pick a topic every week, and it's just getting better at whatever else you do. We're going to expand those as well. My book is coming out in October, I believe, middle to end of October, and it's called Lions Raised as Lambs. So it's about those of us as men, like myself, raised by a single mom. Mom loved me. She was doing the best she could, but she raised me to be very soft and tender. Couldn't get bumped or bruised, but I knew there was a lion in here somewhere, and I had to express that and let that out. So that book is coming out. So yeah, there's a few things happening, Krista, that guys can take advantage of.
And how can people find out more and be notified when this book comes out? So the website you gave us, the Boldmen Adventures, is that the main website, or do you have a secondary website for?
Well, I have my website's going to have everything on it, and that's ericrogell.com. Right now, it's just a little bit up there, and it just has an email capture, so you can just jump in and jump on that if you like. And you can also reach out to me on social media. I mean, I'm on all the social media. Reach out. DM me. I'm the only Eric Rogell on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So I'm easy to find. I'm not hard to find. And so just jump in there, and you'll be able to find me. And I love guys, listen, men, women, whoever, reach out, have a conversation with me. I love talking about this stuff we talked about today. I loved it. And I think the more we get into it, the more men experience that this is out there, and it's real, and it's incredible. And it's an amazing, I've had men say to me, I grew up on a farm, and I was in the military for 4 years, and I never thought I could have a real conversation just with men and be real and raw and get so much value out of it for myself in my life, to be a better man, a better husband, a better father, a better, leader, a better brother, a better son, whatever it may be. So, just get a hold of me. I'll have some great conversations.
I love it. Well, I'm going to put all your contact information in the show notes. And so I want to thank you again for coming out. I know you just moved, so we barely made it. We did.
We got it. I made sure they were out here this morning. Otherwise, I was going to have to go sit in a Starbucks and do this.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just had a lady last week. She had her window open, and suddenly there was a leaf blower, and the guy didn't realize behind the bush that she had her window. And so there's suddenly, she's like, oh my God. I'm like, what happened? A tornado? And she's like, no, I have to close the window. There's leaves everywhere. And
Oh, that's
yeah,
great. That's
yeah.
great.
But
Yeah. Fortunately, well, there's all kinds of construction going on in this neighborhood. It's a brand new neighborhood. So we got lucky because when I came out to set up, there was a guy jackhammering like 2 houses down.
oh
And
my
I thought,
goodness.
well, listen, we'll just deal with it. Whatever it is, we'll get it done. So we've been
Well,
good so far.
you're lucky to live in such a beautiful place where you've got great weather all year round. But I think people can find that everywhere. You know, you just have to be equipped. You don't have to be afraid of weather. You just have to get your gear and get out there, rain, snow, whatever it is. Seriously, you know, I'm in the mountains, so it's really just a question of preparation and get your moves on, right?
Hey, listen, there's something else. I agree with you. And I think there's something to be said for being uncomfortable, right? Like as I'm sitting out here, it's 93 degrees, a little on the warm side, rather be in the air conditioner, but being a little bit uncomfortable is good for you. That's what nature is all about, right? Get out there and explore and kind of challenge yourself a little bit. So even if you have to do that when you're on a podcast.
Well, that's a good note to end the podcast on, is getting outside your comfort zone is the only way to grow. And if you're not growing, you're really dying.
Oh, 100%. I always say your comfort zone is where dreams and goals and visions go to die.
Perfect ending. Thank you so much for coming on the show again, Eric, and good luck with your move.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Krista. It's been a pleasure being here. Appreciate the invite.
Thanks.